One of the many great things about the Creative Cloud is it enables you to work from anywhere, not just from your office. And we have a fantastic example of that coming up right now. From kitchen table to international publication, Martyn Hopkins, European brand manager for Roland Music, is up next with his inspiring story.
My name's Martyn Hopkins and I'm the European brand manager at a music company called Roland. We're a Japanese company and we make electronic musical instruments. So the company was started in Osaka in Japan in 1972, and we started with a really simple idea, and that was that music technology would change the way that we made music, that it would transform the way we make music. And that's something that's kind of guided us for the last 40 years or so. And we're now one of the largest music products manufacturers in the world based on turnover. So what do? We make everything from electronic drum kits to synthesizers to pianos to amplifiers to guitar effects, production equipment. Basically anything that makes a noise and is involved in music making, we're probably involved in some way. Consequently, our customers are musicians, and the customers range from A-listers, who you definitely would have heard of. For example, it was Glastonbury last weekend. I don't know if any of you went. Our gear was used by Metallica, Kasabian, Rudimental, Disclosure, people like Lily Allen, and so on. And then across the other end of the spectrum, we also deal with people who are picking up an instrument for the first time, and everybody else in between as well. So that's our customers. What do? I look after brand communications, content strategy, and design for Roland Euro Group. And it's my job in many ways, and our team's job, to try and make this happen as much as possible, to try and get as many people using our gear as we can. Kind of saying it out loud makes me sound like a drug dealer a little bit, and it's not meant to. But that's what we try and do, just try and get people playing his music as much as possible. How do we do it? We kind of talk about three things generally. The first thing that we do is to get artists using our equipment. So we do lots of video interviews and written interviews where well-known artists will talk about how they actually use the product, how they get the sound, how they use it live, and so on and so forth. Then we talk about issues which are relevant to the music industry in general. So imagine if you were in a band or you were trying to get started musically. We talk about things like how to build a fan base using social media, or how to get your music used in video games, advertising and film, or how to get the music press to write about you. So it's just kind of general information-led pieces as well. And then finally, you've got the product, which is where it all comes together. That's where we show you how you can do this for yourself, how you can get certain sounds, how you can record your first piece of music. So it's very much about how-to guides and tutorials and stuff like that, just to kind of give you the kind of the tips and the tricks that you need to move forward. What has that got to do with today, I hear you ask? Well, we used to do all of this in a print magazine called Power On, and you can see some of the previous issues that we've got there in the background. And we published it for around 10 years. We probably put about 20 issues out in that time. We used to do about 20,000 copies per issue, and it was a really, really good showcase of everything that we do. Kind of brought everything together in a really cool and compelling way. Artist stuff, music industry features, and of course products. And everything was going really well. Our customers seemed to love it. We even managed to win a couple of publishing awards along the way. And then, unfortunately, we hit a bit of a problem along with everybody else in 2009, 2010, when the economy kind of tanked. Then the print magazine seemed a very expensive thing to have because we had some budget cuts, and it became quite a difficult thing to defend. So very reluctantly, and after much arguing and throwing toys out with the pram, we had to park the magazine, and I kind of knew it wasn't going to come back, which was kind of a really big problem for us because we didn't have anything to replace it, so we'd lost one of the most effective ways of showcasing what we were about as a brand, and there was nothing to replace it. So in the months that followed, in a fit of depression while I waited to work out what happened next, there's a few things which were going on. Firstly, Apple announced the iPad. Secondly, it started to sell in some pretty big numbers. Thirdly, you started to see some really interesting media being developed on the new device. I remember when Wired first came out. I remember when Project first came out. really fresh, really exciting, taking things in a completely different direction. And then, after doing some digging, I found out that there were these tools which Adobe had developed. And I think it hadn't even been formally announced. It was still in beta, Digital Publishing Suite. And I downloaded the tools, and one weekend I started to experiment. So at home, on the aforementioned kitchen table. And one Saturday morning, I started to just experiment with the tools within InDesign and started to play around with it. And that Saturday morning very quickly turned into a whole weekend where it was a lost weekend in a good way. I was just playing with the tools, just having lots of fun, being creative, not speaking to my wife, and just going wild. And very quickly I saw the potential. Maybe we could bring the magazine back from the dead. What if we could relaunch it as a digital title? What if we could take it in a direction that we couldn't take the print magazine? So what I did over the next couple of weeks was that I put together a kind of a proof of concept, like an issue 0. And when it was ready, I kind of pitched it to our MD and said, look, this is something that we can do. This is something fresh and exciting. We can bring the magazine back and actually amplify its kind of reach and make it an improved product as well, because we're a music company at the end of the day. So it's good to be using audio and visual as well as words. And thankfully, he liked it, said, go ahead, publish. We were live in the UK App Store. And then something really interesting happened. We got a call from our Japanese colleagues. And the guys at Japan had seen it, and including the president of Roland Corporation. And they said, is there any reason why you can't kind of launch this as Roland's Global Magazine? To which I said, after about a nanosecond of thought, yeah, okay, we'll do that. And what we ended up with is this first issue, issue 1, which had Johnny Marr on the cover. And with just a few tweaks, we were live in the App Store in over 100 countries worldwide. So we'd gone from just doing a local print magazine to being a kind of our own global publisher in a very short space of time, and actually with kind of 2 or 3 people, just putting the issue together. So that's the issue. If you're a musician, please download it from the App Store and leave us a nice review. That's the self-publication bit done, self-promotion bit done. What's the appeal, though, from our perspective of digital publishing? There's actually a lot of things. There's a combination of strategic stuff and tactical stuff. And this is just some of the things that I just wanted to share with you today. As a music brand, having a digital magazine is a much more natural fit. If you think about it, it's kind of ironic that we use thousands of words talking about how something sounds. It's far better to show you what it sounds like. So if you're a musician, what does it sound like? What does it look like when you're using it? Musical instruments are a very tactile thing. So the ability to bring together audio and video into one place and add that to the written word is very compelling for us, and allows us to tell our story much better. The next thing is just pure creativity. If you download the tools and start getting creative, I defy you not to have lots of good ideas. It just gives you a much broader vocabulary with which to tell your story. And in fact, it's kind of changed the way that we think about content creation. You've just got a much broader vocabulary now. You can do more things, you can see further. And having the ability to kind of bring your written content, bring your audio content, video content, and add to that interactivity, such as the ability to rotate the product in 360 degrees, so you can see what it looks like from different angles. We have a facility where you press the product, and you can do a real-time Google shopping search to find out how much it is to buy. and that's all done kind of within the magazine. So very, very cool, and so much so that it allows you to tell a different type of story as well as a better type of story. The third thing for us is good old-fashioned cost. Okay, it's not as sexy as the other stuff I've been talking about, but a print magazine, printing and posting a magazine is expensive business, and unfortunately it meant that we couldn't do as many issues as we would like. So that was one factor. The other thing was wastage. Now, I'd love to think that everybody would, upon receiving the magazine, run upstairs and rip the envelope open and spend lots of time reading it. But because we posted it to them, you never quite knew how many of these magazines ended up in the bin. Can't tell you. Compare that with the digital product where you're able to, the end user can kind of go to the App Store and download it, and he waits for the content to download, and then it actually sits on his device as well. So he's quite keen. He's actually gone through a lot of steps to get his hands on your content. And there's a big difference there. The difference is that he's kind of pulling the content towards him rather than us pushing the magazine out to him, and it may not even be wanted in the first place. You've also got the benefit of analytics. So when you're speaking to the guys that sign off the checks, you can say, well, so many people have read this issue, this is what they like, this is what they don't like, this is the engagement that we've got, and all of those analytics plug back into your content creation process. So you can do more of what works and less of what doesn't work. The next is reach. This is a big one for us. We're doing all of the work anyway. So we're interviewing artists, we're doing videos, we're doing product demonstrations, we're doing blog posts, we're talking about a lot of stuff. So it's relatively straightforward from our point of view to bring all that together and to put it into a format which now allows us to reach a global audience. So we've moved from being a local publisher of a print magazine to a global publisher with a global audience. We're still doing the work, but we were able to leverage it to a much broader appeal. Also, there's the fact that there's consistency as well. So for the first time now, Roland customers throughout the world will see a single kind of tone of communications from us. So we speak with a single brand voice, which is great. The next thing is actually probably the most exciting, and that's where's it all headed? Where's it all headed? I still feel as if we're all in at the ground floor with digital publishing. It's early days. And as marketing moves from being something interruptive, which can get in the way, to something which is more about creating engagement and being value-based, you need a different set of tools and capabilities to compete. And for us, DPS gives us that ability. It gives us a better vocabulary to create engaging experiences for our customers. And if you think it's exciting now, what's it going to be like in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years' time? Just think about how the web has changed during that time. This is definitely a train that we want to be on. This bit is particularly cool, though. It's such a small point. Everything that I've been talking about, this is just one of my screen grabs from the next issue of the magazine, which is going to be published soon. You forget that all of this is available from within InDesign, and it still kind of freaks me out that you can publish an issue to a worldwide audience literally from your kitchen table, or from a train, or from on the street if you want to, if you've got a fast enough Wi-Fi connection. So it really puts the power of publishing back into the hands of kind of designers and the internal marketing teams, which for us is really, really cool indeed. Lessons learned. These are some of the things that I learned, though, and some of the things I wish I'd known at the time. The first is, if you're going to download the tools into InDesign and start playing with them, have fun. Go wild, experiment, because you'll get some really, really interesting things and ideas that will come from that initial period of creativity, and you'll find what works for your brand and what won't. The next thing is to stay calm. Don't overload the reader with too much interactivity. The third is to develop a style guide for your title to make sure that you don't have to reinvent the wheel each time you do an issue. Next is to keep your file size nice and small. Don't give someone a 500 meg issue to download, because they probably, it's a bit of a pain and it takes up valuable space on the device. Ask your readers for feedback, because they'll give it to you, and that helps with the rankings in the App Store. And also to promote all the time. Just because you publish the issue doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to flock to it. So you have to work quite hard to remind people that the issue is there. For us, what works really well is email marketing. Every time we send an email to all of our customers, the downloads can go up by 4 figures over a couple of days. Last slide is to learn about App Store optimization. This is the big one. This is where the main job actually starts. The good thing about the App Store is that there are over 1 million apps, so there's loads of choice. The bad thing about the App Store is that there are over 1 million apps, so there's too much choice, particularly if you're one of those apps trying to be found. It can be a nightmare. There's over like 7,000 music apps alone, and we're just one of those. So standing out can be tough, which is why you need to get on top of App Store optimization. There's lots of kind of really good information out there. Just Google it. You know, it involves selecting the right keywords, tracking what your competitor keywords are, and making sure that you're ranking nice and highly, because if you get it right, that's the thing that will really drive your downloads. Parting shot for me, the hardest bit is still the hardest bit, I guess. And the hardest bit is what we all do on a day-to-day basis. You know, it's coming up with good ideas, trying to be creative, trying to engage with people, with our customers, and produce situations where people give a damn about what we do. But the second hardest bit, which is pulling it all together and being able to get the tools to publish and to reach a global audience and to develop that, the second hardest bit has got a lot easier than it used to be, and that's why we really like using DPS. All I would say to you is, if you're thinking of getting involved, it's a no-brainer. Jump in head first and have fun, because it's great. Thank you very much.